A story from the echoes of ashes.
Screams echo in the distance, bells tolling wildly as if in warning. The low hum of the divine gate reverberates through the air, a beacon in a city being consumed by chaos. The city was falling apart. Anne, a young cleric barely past his novitiate years, weaved through the panicked crowd. His once white robes were smeared with ash and blood, his chest heaving with exertion. Above him, the sky churned, streaked with tendrils of darkness leaking from the jagged fissures in the earth below. He clutched his pendant, the symbol of Resna, against his chest. "Hold fast to your faith," he whispered, though the words felt hollow even to himself. The ground trembled beneath his feet. Behind him, the agents of the ancients advanced. Hulking, grotesque monstrosities born of corruption, their forms defied logic, a tangle of limbs, eyes, and mouths moving with unholy precision. They tore through the fleeing masses, leaving carnage in their wake. Ahead, the divine gate shimmered, its golden light cutting through the chaos like a lifeline. But the crowd surging toward it had become a stampede, trampling anyone too slow to keep up. "Help me!" A small voice cut through the noise. Anne turned sharply, his gaze falling on a boy no older than 10, crumpled on the ground. His leg was twisted unnaturally, bone jutting from torn flesh. The boy reached out, his face pale with shock. "Please?" Anne dropped to his knees beside him, his hands trembling as he hovered them over the wound. Light began to gather at his fingertips, golden and warm, fueled by the essence that pulsed through the world. He murmured a prayer, his voice steady despite the chaos. "I've got you," Anne said, focusing on the boy's leg as the glow began to knit flesh and bone. Relief flickered in the boy's tearful eyes. A sharp jolt sent Anne sprawling. Someone had slammed into him in their mad dash for the gate. The light vanished from his hands. Anne scrambled back to the boy, his heart pounding. The crowd surged again, bodies pressing against him, driving him forward. He reached out, but the boy was swallowed by the tide. There was no time to think, no time to speak. Aaron stumbled forward, the gate's brilliance growing nearer with every frantic step. The ground shook violently, fissures splitting the cobblestones. He dared a glance behind. The monstrosities were closing in, tearing through the last stragglers. Their hollow, glowing eyes locked onto the gate with single-minded determination. "Faith," Aaron whispered. "Faith will guide us." The gate pulsed with golden light as he reached it. He felt the heat of its energy wash over him, blinding and all-encompassing. With one last desperate step, he crossed through, the sound of chaos behind him silenced in an instant. Aaron collapsed onto soft grass, his lungs burning, his vision swimming with tears. For a moment, all he could hear was his own ragged breathing. Then, birdsong. He lifted his head. The air was crisp and cool, carrying the scent of pine and blooming flowers. Above him, the sky stretched endlessly, a brilliant blue unmarred by corruption. Around him, survivors staggered to their feet, their faces painted with disbelief as they took in the rolling green hills, the tall trees swaying in a gentle breeze, and the rivers that sparkled like liquid silver. "It's beautiful," someone whispered. But the beauty was marred by the wounded. The survivors who had made it through the gate were bloodied, their bodies broken by the chaos of the city. Aaron rose unsteadily, his pendant clutched tightly in his fist. He rushed to the nearest injured man, pressing his hands to a deep gash on the man's side. "Hold on," Aaron said, his voice firm. "I can help you." He closed his eyes, reaching for the essence. He murmured the familiar prayer, but nothing happened. There was no warmth, no light. He tried again, his voice rising in desperation. "Resna, guide me, please." His hands trembled as he pressed harder, but the man's breathing slowed. His chest fell still. Aaron stared at his hands. The magic was gone. One by one, the wounded succumbed to their injuries. Aaron moved from person to person, his prayers growing louder, more frantic. Each time, nothing. The essence was absent. The connection he had always felt to the gods, severed. They promised us salvation, a woman wailed. She knelt beside her daughter's lifeless body, her voice hoarse from screaming. This was supposed to save us. Aaron staggered backward, his knees buckling as he fell into the grass. His pendant felt heavy around his neck, its golden surface cold and lifeless. This isn't right, he murmured, staring at the idyllic landscape that surrounded them. The beauty felt cruel, mocking. Why would they send us here if we can't even survive? He looked to the sky, the brilliant blue now feeling empty. Why? He whispered. Why did you abandon us? The survivors' cries filled the air, a symphony of despair that clashed with the serene backdrop of their new world. Aaron clutched his pendant, but for the first time, he didn't pray.